to all the men listening, like, you have to reach out. Stop lying to yourself and convincing yourself that no one actually wants to help you. You probably have at least one person in your life that you could think of right now who would actually pick up the phone when you call, and they would actually listen to you and they want to do it, but you've convinced yourself that you'd be a burden. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. And if you keep believing that, that's going to lead you down the dark path that leads to things like serious depression and suicide. And I think that this is why it's such a big problem for men. I mean, the stats are absolutely alarming. 3 to 4 times more likely that men commit suicide than women. And we're also very successful at it when we do it.
People go through stuff in life, and the sole purpose that they go through stuff is to help other people.
That's right.
That eventually will go through the same thing. Every man is lying if they said they haven't dealt with one of these things in some way, shape, or form. They're lying to your face. It happens, and I appreciate you talking about the uncomfortable things that may not be fun to discuss, but it's going to heal. And a lot of times there's people that go through hard times and adversity, and their story is supposed to help others with their story. But if you don't ask, then you're robbing them in that blessing. And you're obviously robbing yourself of the blessing of seeking freedom and wisdom and accountability, but you're robbing them too.
Hello everyone, my name is George Hayworth. I'm joined by Brendan Schlittler. I said the name correctly. And we are going to do a quick discussion today on younger men and marriage and kind of what it's like to be a younger man in today's world, because I think a lot of people aren't really aware of the challenges that are facing younger men coming into adulthood and wanting to start families. So Brendan, welcome. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll get going from there.
I appreciate it. First off, thank you for allowing me to come on the show. My name is Brendan Schlittler. My X handle is @TheGoodMan, and I'm 24 years old. I played college football at Liberty University for 6 seasons. Just got done this past season. 4 days after the game, got married, moved cities, started a new career, and
Nice.
now getting adjusted to that. So just started the X page and really just seeing what's out in the real world, and that's a little bit about myself.
Yeah, man. Well, that's awesome. And again, sorry you got hurt in your senior season, but I do, maybe at the end we'll follow up with some football stuff, because there's definitely a lot of like discipline and hard work that goes into making it at any level. And so to play, for those who aren't aware, Liberty did really good in your senior season. You guys made it to the Fiesta Bowl. That's not a huge school, so for you guys to make it to one of the big bowl games is a massive deal. So obviously you were part of a pretty elite program there, and I think maybe we can follow up with that later. But let's start marriage and kind of dating and what it's like to be a young man in the dating pool today. Because I hear, from my perspective, just for context, I'm about to turn 36 as of this recording, so I've got over 10 years on you. And the world I grew up in when it came to what people thought about marriage and dating and all that was very different than the world you've grown up in, right? And I hear a lot of massive negativity, at least in my circles, because we're all old fogies, right? And I would love for you to kind of pierce through maybe some of the myths, but also talk about in reality, like, what is it like for guys today? A big trope I hear about is younger men have zero desire to ever get married, and they think like marriage is a scam, and they think it's not even worth it. So from your perspective, how true is that, or is that just kind of a myth?
Well, being married, I wholeheartedly disagree with what the norm is. Yeah, that's a great point. I think when you look at it, what the landscape was 10 years ago, what it was 10 years before then, and I mean, it's ever changing. Mm-hmm. And the world you grow up in is always different than what you were in. So yeah, you're right. It is almost frowned upon nowadays to get married, and especially at a young age. And the way I did it was, my wife now, fiance and girlfriend at the time, I wrote down in my notes in my phone the second day we were dating that I was going to marry her. I knew I was going to marry her. And to be quite honest with you, I was looking for rings 2 months later. And that's crazy to people. That's unheard of. We got engaged 6 months after we started dating, and we got married like 7.5 months after that. And there's not a single regret in my mind of the way we did it. And I think the real problem is there's a system, and people believe all sort of things, whether it's the elites or the government or people who hold the money. they don't want the family unit to be successful, and I wholeheartedly believe that they don't want that. And the
I
reason
agree.
is because of the power in the family unit, and that starts with a marriage, obviously.
Yep.
So they've created ways to keep people complacent, keep people distracted. You, to be honest with you, man to man, you could type in a few words in your phone on an app or on the internet, and you could be looking at someone, or you could have someone on your doorstep within 10 minutes. And it's
Yeah.
easily available, especially the needs of a man, to be complacent and to be distracted. And
Mm.
when you're comfortable and you have that on your fingertips, there's no reason to go out and get married for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a believer of Christ, I see it differently. But for the general norm of the world, that's kind of, I think, what's holding a lot of people back.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I know you're alluding to like pornography and other things, and they're definitely like prisons, and they keep you completely trapped for a lot of reasons, and maybe we'll go into that further. But I think at least what I've observed, and I try to learn as much as I can about this topic because it's so on brand for the podcast and other things I'm doing to try and help men. Is the notion that like marriage is a trap because she's just going to leave you anyway and then take half your stuff. Like I hear that very jaded remark a lot. And I guess I'm just wondering if you have heard that echoed as well from like your peer group, I'm saying in general, like your generation, just a little bit behind me. Is that actually the way that a lot of guys think today? Or is it more of just kind of like people who have been burned just are very vocal about that?
I think it's a combination of a lot. I believe hurt people, and a lot of
That's
people
true.
voice their opinion on a topic based off their own personal experience on that topic. So, in a society where 50+% people are divorced,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to hear a lot of that noise.
Yeah.
And everyone's talking in the world of prenups and alleged accusations, and there's just a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And with that comes fear, and fear drives emotion. So, there's a lot of men who hear stories and aren't confident enough in their woman or in a woman to pursue that next step because they're afraid whether it's they're going to leave them for another man or they're going to take their money or it's just not going to end well.
Right.
The upside's not worth the potential downside to a lot of men. And certainly, I think that's a very, very big part of it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I think how a lot of guys get there too, and this is where I'm going to come back to your story and your personal journey, dating your wife, getting engaged very quickly, getting married relatively young, it sounded like you were courting to marry. You weren't just dating for the sake of dating to not be single. And I think that's what most guys are doing or have done is they just don't want to be alone, so they just get into relationships, and there's no actual purpose or intention of actually testing, is this woman going to be my wife? And that's at least how dating should go, is you're actually testing each other to see if marriage is going to be realistic, and if it's not, you should break up and move on, right? But what was that experience like for you? At least what values drove you to be so firm on, was it your parents teaching you? Was it other men like giving you counsel? How did you kind of court? And then what did you see a lot of your peers doing that maybe have struggled in terms of actually having serious relationships working towards marriage?
Yeah, that's a great question. My father taught me at a young age, you learn wisdom from either your own mistakes or other people's mistakes. And he
That's
said,
right.
son, if you can learn from others' mistakes, you're going to have a joyful life. And so I took that to heart. Obviously, being a college football player, growing up in that environment in high school and college, you see a lot of stuff that a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
aren't aware of. And but I saw it as an opportunity. And I was single my college years up till the very end, and I made a decision after seeing a couple buddies going through what they went through, and seeing what was kind of taking their focus and their attention and their time, and how it was not resulting in anything at the end. I decided I wanted to be different, and in order to have something different, you have to take a different approach than what's normal.
That's right.
So I took my single years extremely seriously, and I wrote a thread on this today. Becoming the person that my wife was going to desire. And I was not going to be able to go and find this beautiful blonde Christian woman if I was some piece of trash.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think there's an immense opportunity in a single season for anyone that's in that. This is your opportunity to level up, to prepare. You can outkick your coverage if you take this time seriously.
That's
I'm a
right.
firm believer in that. So getting into dating, um, I knew what I wanted, and I took that very seriously. I knew I wanted someone that was nurturing, someone that embodied, you hear the Proverbs 31 woman.
Hmm.
That's what I was looking for. And the second I saw it, I knew it. I recognized it because I thought about it and I dwelled on it a lot. And as far as intentional dating versus just kind of not intentional dating,
Having fun,
yeah. I know.
yeah.
So I'm a firm believer that if you're not intentionally dating to marry, then you're wasting your time. You're going to be
Hmm.
hurt physically, emotionally, or financially if
Yeah.
you're not taking it seriously. And that's just what I believe. I think if you're not going in having legit discussions, honest and raw talks off the bat about what you're looking for, your vision
Hmm.
for your marriage, your family, and aligning on those and seeing if they fit, you're just delaying that conversation for conflict or a big blow up later on down the road.
Definitely.
And you don't want to waste that time. So, I mean, we sat in my car and talked for 3.5, 4 hours the first night we met and went through everything. And a lot of people don't do that. It's not popular. It's not fun.
Right.
There's a lot of more fun things you could be doing on the first date. So, um, but yeah, that's kind of the approach we took, and it led to the path that we have.
Yeah, it's such a great example of where, you know, I guess the term would be like delayed gratification, right? But like the thing that comes to mind actually is like a bamboo tree, right? You have to water it for like 5 years and it barely grows, and then all of a sudden it shoots up like 10 feet or something in a single year. But it's that intention, knowing what you want, being consistent about those things, and to your point too of growing as a man first to be able to even earn the affection of the right woman is such a critical step. And that's honestly been for me just in the position I'm in, right? I coach men, I help in these things. That's like my business. And I struggle with like how to bridge that gap to men your age or even a little bit younger and really try and show like, look, you're going to miss out on some fun today, but it's going to yield just massive dividends even a few years down the road. And like I learned kind of the hard way too. I did not grow in the ways that I needed to. I caused a lot of extra damage to my marriage that I didn't need to if I would have had more intention like you. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't do the work. And it just really causes a lot of issues. But I think that's amazing insight for all guys listening, even if you're older, right? Maybe you're looking to get remarried or something. You should be going in asking the hard questions first. The stuff that typically breaks dating relationships, because marriage is the goal, and true fulfillment only comes from marriage. If your relationship never gets there, you're not really tapping into the full levels of your relationship that it can be. Not even just from a biblical point of view, from a partnership, marriage point of view. Like you unlock new levels of connection that you just can't do when you're not. And I know a lot of people probably be critics of that, but it's the happiest people I know work really hard on having very strong marriages, regardless of what their station in life is. They are fulfilled because their marriage is strong. I think it's just innate to who we are. But so I assume you got a lot of backlash from your buddies, like, why are you being weird or whatever, right? I mean, what was that like, kind of standing up to opposition?
Yeah, so I'll be the first to admit I used to be the type of guy that the second someone was engaged quick or they got married quick or they got married at all, I was giving them trouble.
Mm,
And I'm not going to compare it Saul to Paul in the Bible, but it's not as vicious. But I did exactly what I was giving people trouble for, and kind of opened my eyes to if the right conversations are had, if the intentionality is there, time doesn't matter. It's a matter of the process and the steps and how quick you go through that, not necessarily how many days you sit around and do nothing.
right.
So, with that, giving people trouble and then talking to my friends about it and then going on the back end and doing the same thing I was making fun of people for, obviously you're going to face a lot of backlash. Now, I think realistically, my friends were all kind of like, "What are you doing?" But they showed support to my face. Um, but naturally, if I were in anyone else's shoes, I would say, "What are you doing?" I would genuinely be concerned. But I knew in my heart, um, what I was doing was right, and it was different. But I knew we were doing it the Lord's way, and
Mm,
and took that. each intentional step at a time. To
Yeah.
answer your question, faced a little bit, but I know for a fact behind my back there was a lot. And it was one of those where, like, early on, you're like, yeah, I'm fine. But you're kind of like, I'm not liking that people are saying stuff. And then a couple months go by, and you really grow confident in your decision. And you recognize that at first they're going to make fun of you. And then you stand firm on your decision, and they're going to respect you. And that
Yeah.
applies to anything in life.
Yep.
Whether it's going sober, whether it's quitting, getting with girls, whether it's this situation right here. They're going to make fun of you. They're going to see if you're going to give in. Then, once you stand firm in your beliefs and they know that they can't control you, they're going to respect you in your decision. So that's my message to anyone that's facing any backlash for pursuing something that's worth pursuing, that will fulfill you and that is done the right way, is stand firm and be confident in what you're doing, because a lot of people are not going to be comfortable because you're growing. You're decided to make a decision that goes against how they feel, so they're going to be uncomfortable, and that's natural. I always joke, Nick Saban, former coach of Alabama, he said, if you want to make everyone happy, go sell ice cream. So
Yeah, that's such a great quote. It's true. Man, great points there. And as a man, whether you're young and just getting married or later in life, like, you are going to stand against opposition, especially to your point earlier, right? You want to have results like no one else. You have to do what no one else is doing, right? And people like conformity because it makes them comfortable, and then they don't have to bear responsibility for their own inadequacies and stuff. And when you start to grow, it essentially is like a mirror reflecting back how little they've grown, and they don't like it, so they lash out at it. And in my own journey, I've found not caring about that anymore has been one of the most freeing experiences in my life. My stress is lower, my anxiety is lower, and I know that I'm a man on a mission doing what I need to be doing instead of worrying about all these other things. And my co-host Brandon talks about this a lot, that the most important decision you can make as a man ever is the woman you choose to marry. Point blank. Like, that decision is either going to make your life awesome or absolutely miserable. There's no in between. It's like the most important decision. So who cares what other people are saying? Now I'm not talking about like your mentors or trusted advisors, but like the world, right? The people at large. Who cares what social media says about you? Because they don't know, right? But if you are grounded in values, you're a man on a mission, you know your purpose and what you're aspiring to accomplish, like, you need to be able to stand firm against that opposition. And so that first hard choice is the woman you select to marry and how old you are and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to applaud you because I think a lot of guys would fold under that pressure or second guess themselves and maybe cause damage, right, unnecessarily. But, tell us a little bit then how you think older guys like me can start connecting better with younger men and maybe show better examples of, like, look, marriage is actually really awesome. It takes some hard work on the front end to figure things out, but the rewards are epic if you cultivate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I think about that question, the first thing I think about that I would like to do a better job at in general in my position, I want to meet people where they're at. So for, not going to say older, but for older people, 10, 12 years.
I know I'm not that old, but but I've got 12 years on you or whatever, right? So there's a gap.
Exactly. Meeting the kids and the guys, the young men, where they're at in life, knowing that their situation is different and knowing that they don't have the wisdom and the experiences that you do,
yeah,
I think is vital. I've realized when you beat someone over the head with an idea and a topic, it's not going to make them want to change. It's not going to help them realize. But if you ask questions, get into the root cause of why they feel the way they do, and show them genuine mentorship through your own experiences, being vulnerable, I think that's the best way to catalyst the change. A lot of times,
I agree.
men nowadays have to rewire what they think fulfills them. So naturally, you see all this stuff, advertisements for everything. You want short-term gratification. That's what it comes down to. I know you mentioned earlier. They have to rewire what they know deep down fulfills them. I say rewire. The Bible says renew your mind. You could say brainwash, whatever you want. But
programming. No, I say that all the time. Everything is mind control.
Exactly.
Everything you listen to, you read. I mean, that's biblical too. Dwell on what is good, true, and right. But it's either positive or negative. There's no in between. It is that absolute. And I think that's a lot of people don't realize that they're filling their head all the time with essentially junk, right? If you think of it like a diet, like your physical diet to hone your body and get physically fit, you need to have at least an 80-20 split there where it's 80% on target and maybe 20% isn't good. You got to do the same thing with what's going in your head, because if you're consuming 80+% of junk food, what do you think is happening to your brain? It's rotting. It's turning into mush, And in order to hone it and sharpen it and protect yourself from wrong think or misbeliefs about yourself or whatever, you got to filter what's coming in, And so that's where a lot of people are, they're watching Netflix for forever, and instead of listening to an audiobook or something like that, that could be challenging their thoughts and helping them improve. But I think that's a big piece of it, is that subconscious programming, right? We're all running a script, but you can change it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. You were saying you got to
No. Those are great points, and I know some of those they fit right in. That one was, you hit the nail on the head.
Gotcha. Okay, so meeting them where they're at, understanding that guys need to kind of recondition themselves to think what is actually important, what do I really want to work towards. That meeting them where they're at, I think, is a big problem, right? Especially when you talk generation to generation. I see this trend all the time, everywhere I go, where it's kids today are just weak, or kids today are just stupid, or kids. Well, who's raising them? You are, dummy. So if they're stupid, it's your fault, But there's no humility in that sense of well, we had it tougher than they did. And it's well, yes, that's quite literally the point of raising the next generation, is that it's not as hard for them. As a father, I'm intentionally not trying to make the world a worse place for my daughter, so I don't understand why we get into this false air of superiority. And to meet people where they're at is, in my opinion, the most essential step of any kind of coaching or mentorship or any kind of help, because you inherently have to put yourself in that person's shoes. But so let's say that's been accomplished, and younger guys are actually interested in maybe learning from myself or even a generation ahead of me. What do you think are some of the most important things that older generations need to understand about what is the world really like now as a late teenager or early 20-something guy?
It's a really good question.
For context, Tinder was invented when I was, I think, out of college already. Okay, so
I always put it this way: as a man, one of your greatest urges is, physical stuff. So
yeah,
Tinder, Bumble,
all the apps.
I mean, you type in 4 letters on the internet, and it's sitting right in front of you. So I would say it's all mental compared to what it was before. And the attack on the strong Christian masculine man that is grounded in morals and values is fully on display. Mm-hmm. It's and with that, I think until you learn to master delayed gratification and discipline, you're an easy target. It's so easy to get caught up. And I think the thing that people don't realize is how young it starts. And when you start a habit or an addiction or whatever it is, I've heard of stories of friends and peers that have been exposed to pornography and exposed to women throwing themselves on them when they were in 4th, 5th, 6th grade, whether it was siblings showing them or friends or whatever it was. And when you're ingrained at that young of an age, your brain is still developing, and a lot of those experiences at that age cultivate who you become.
Yeah.
And when that's a core part of what you're experiencing when you're in late elementary school, middle school, it's naturally going to be a battle. So when I say meet them where they're at and what we're facing, it's just the temptation's everywhere. And it's hard to win one day, and it's really hard to win 365 straight days and stack those years. So I wouldn't be shocked if there was a bit of a surge of people coming around full circle now that everyone's realizing how damaging pornography is. Everyone's realizing how damaging having many partners before marriage is. And you look at all the temptations and addictions all around. There's a kind of a movement coming up of men that are recognizing, hey, this stuff's damaging my future. It's damaging how I think. Especially on X, there's a ton of great people you meet that are battling this stuff and they're defeating it. And I think you're going to see a big surge in people recognizing that marriage might have been the answer for the things that they were trying to find elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that because I've kind of been making that subtle prediction that I think we're on the verge of kind of like another great awakening. I don't know how much you know about like colonial America, but there was I think two great awakenings they called them, and that's where you get a lot of these famous like hymn writers and stuff. We still sing the hymns today. They came from those periods where there was these portions of our history where there was just total debauchery, alcohol and women and all the things. And I do feel like we're on the cusp of something like that happening again. But like my generation is kind of just lost, and so are Zoomers. I don't know. Do you fall in the one behind, or are you a Zoomer? I forget which one you're in. But
I'll be completely honest. I'm not even going to guess. I have
no idea. All right, but I feel like anyone from the ages of like their late 20s to about 50 currently, like those kind of, I think that spans two separate generations maybe, but we kind of lost. I think we lost most of our group to these things. Internet porn was something I really struggled with. I was exposed to that super early, and that stuff messes you up, man. Like the way that you view the world changes when that's a repetitive thing in your life. And I'm still, undoing the damage from that as an almost 36-year-old man. And I think I was probably just one of tens, if not thousands, or hundreds of millions, that had that issue. So it's a big problem, but more so than just that, it's good to hear that there's like this sense of revival. I do think we need to fight a little bit harder to kind of bridge the gaps, though, and that it harkens back to that attitude of like, oh, well, generations today just don't get it. They didn't have it as hard as us. And I hate to see that kind of like arrogance, because what it demonstrates is an unwillingness to help someone else. And so as you've grown up in these things, obviously you got taught pretty well, right? Compared to many guys who are kind of struggling. What were some of those things that you learned that you think really shielded you from making bad decisions and kind of pushed you into making better ones?
I think I was just very aware from a young age with what my parents installed in me of recognizing the decisions that other people made and the direct result of those decisions. And naturally, I kind of pieced it together. If you do this is going to happen. If you do that, this happened to that person. Mm-hmm. And that allowed me to really get an idea of what I had to do and really what I did not have to do. So yeah. I was able to really get a grasp on the things that mattered in life. I really think that everyone naturally in their flesh with how the world is right now kind of has everything backwards unless they really challenge how they think. So what you think is going to make you happy is not going to make you happy. We seek comfort. We're humans. We want to be coddled. We want to feel great. We want to look forward to the time that we have time off. We want to look forward to rest. We want to look forward to sleep, vacation. When we feel good mentally, the short-term gratification, we desire that. Everyone does. So it's kind of rewiring your mind, as I mentioned, of what actually is going to give you fulfillment in life. I hadn't lived it, but I knew that the right woman, creating a family, and chasing after my God-given potential as a leader in both of those areas was going to be what gave me the most fulfillment outside of a personal relationship with Christ. But it took faith to do that because I didn't have a single ounce of it at my fingertips. But I knew what the world was doing was definitely not the answer because they were all lost. And people can say they're happy, they can say they feel all right, and they're so happy with their decisions. We all know that when you try to fill that void in your heart with anything other than the Lord's commands and His goodwill and what comes from Him, that you're gonna feel lost. The porn, the drugs, the alcohol, the video games, the gambling, the fast food, all of it, you're gonna feel dead. And it's not a matter of if but when if you haven't yet.
Yeah, it's definitely a void. Trying to fill a God-sized hole with something else is just not going to work. On the flip side of kind of that question is, what is something you wish you would have maybe been taught sooner, whether it was as a boy or as a young man, that you kind of know now that has helped kind of make sure that you stay growing and on that strong path?
So I came up with this about 3 seconds ago. I saw a thing.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, exactly. I saw this picture. It was of a billboard, and it said, "The words and the actions that others portray on you has nothing to do with you. It's just a direct result of how they feel about themselves inside, and that's how you learn grace." So, for you, for myself, when you face comments from others, when you hear things and people voice their opinions, I see it now as a place of opportunity to go and be like, what's wrong? Like,
Yeah.
let's get you fixed. Instead of defending myself and getting upset about what people might say, I now see it as a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves and their current state of their life. And I look back at when I said things about people, and it's proven true in my own life that I wasn't
Yeah.
happy with certain things. So I know that's the case. So now when I face backlash for a certain decision, making it a next page and starting out, you're going to face some stuff. Getting married at 23 and trying to do it the right way, and people are going to say stuff. But all that means in my mind now, I've rewired it. They're hurting. They don't like themselves on the inside, and I need to show them grace. And when you do that, I mean, that's true freedom. I've never felt
Yeah.
as free as I have when I figured that out, and that clicked.
That's a really good piece of advice. Just in my own journey, I felt the need to defend myself constantly. And it's because really deep down I was a scared teenage boy, trying to pretend he was a man. But I wasted so much energy. I burned so many bridges, trying to just fight everyone. And to your point, I've experienced a lot of growth. I've leveled up a lot. It's like in the movie The Matrix, when they get unplugged and they're looking at the screens and you just see it for the digits that it is, as opposed to like, the actual picture. I feel like that's what it's like a little bit, where you can just see other people's brokenness, not as like looking down on them, but with empathy and realize, man, I was that way too. I was broken too, and I know what that feels like. And I feel that way a lot of the time too, right? Unless someone is just absolutely viciously attacking you, right? Most people, I think, are just desperate for someone to bridge that divide. And I've found that to be, even on X, and I learned this, I got to give credit to my co-host, Dustin, kind of turning the other cheek a little bit, kind of kill them with kindness. My initial reaction is still to get defensive and kind of tell them they're an idiot or whatever, but actually turning the other cheek and laying up kind of a gentle comment back typically wins them over. Actually, there was a guy who was like attacking my page, and now he follows me because I think it was just a general misconception or a misunderstanding, and a simple kind word back totally diffused the situation. And I've seen that start to play out a lot more in my own life. So that's incredible advice for younger men, I think, too, because you're kind of still at this stage of your life where you're trying to make your mark on the world, right? You're trying to prove yourself kind of in your first next step of life. Football's over, college is over, you're now a man, married, starting out in your profession and kind of building roots, right? And I think a lot of guys fall into that trap of you gotta like fight everyone about it and everything. And real strength is actually in not needing that. True masculinity comes from understanding that I'm a man on a mission. I have my purpose, and I'm going to work very hard for those things. I'm not going to fold under pressure, but I'm also going to win people over to my side. And especially as a younger man, like that's how you earn mentors, is you're constantly connecting with other people and asking thoughtful questions and demonstrating a willingness to learn and understand. And that's how you build the winning circles that like really propel you forward in life. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about in all the ways. To that point, you are young, you newlywed, starting a new life, you just moved, all that, a lot of change. How have you surrounded yourself with people? What does that look like for you in terms of people who kind of pour into you, advocate for your marriage, and help you to continue to be a better man?
Yeah, my last year of playing, I told my fiance at the time I wanted to make it a point to find a couple mentors around town that were associated with the program, and also really be diligent in who I spent my time with. So I think I would say about two years ago is when I really got intentional with this. And
So when you were about 21.
yeah, exactly.
That's good. That's
So
awesome.
at that point, just really being smart with who had a say about my situations, and I would really say who could influence me, because
Yeah.
I hate it just as much as anyone else. You hear it every day. You're a product of who you're around. You're a product of your environment.
100%.
It's said all the time, but there's nothing more true than that. And
Yeah, there's no
it's
escaping
not
that.
that you can't be with other people. It's not that you can't. You still have to meet people where they're at. So it's not like you're just around
Yeah,
all the angels all the time. But
that's right.
it's being smart about who you listen to, and really living life with. So I would say just awareness is the biggest thing. Awareness is 95% of figuring out who you need to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Start writing down after you hang out with people how they made you feel. Write out what you learned from them, good or bad. And pretty quickly you can accumulate a list of people that are on the same mission you are, that want to learn and grow in wisdom and have deep talks about what they need to do in life to create what they want, or the ones that are talking about other stuff that's a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
And now I almost have kind of like a rotation of 5 or 6 guys that was really close with, either former teammates or friends. We talk every single week,
That's
and
good.
aside from that, I mean, the list is pretty short. The other guys I'll talk to way less, and it really just it's not that I don't like them that much. It's just I got to be smart and diligent with who I fill my time with. So, as I said, I think the awareness is completely the number one thing, because it's easy to make the decision. Because once you start thinking, oh, that person said that and they believe this, and oh, maybe I shouldn't spend as much time with them, or that guy
Yeah.
has, he might be 14 years older, but he's has 4 kids, is in a great thriving marriage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's where I want to be, so I need to go seek wisdom from him, not the
That's right.
person that's behind me. So,
Yeah, we just real quick anecdote kind of on that same thought there. Like, not everyone has to look just like, I mean, you don't have to be in the exact same season of life to have like a brotherhood with. There can be a pretty large gap there as men. I think that's pretty normal actually. But we moved to Texas when I got out of the army, joined a new church and joined a small group, and the couple that ran the group was like more than double our age. They were like in their 70s, retired and all kinds of stuff. And at first I was like, oh, great, I didn't want to get put in this group, and I was like, these old fogies, they're not going to understand me or that kind of stuff. It was like the best thing. They were like our surrogate parents, you know what I mean? And I really needed their input in my life. And I quite frankly don't think we would have made it in our marriage if we wouldn't have had that group. Because there were many times where, the guy who ran the husband really had to kind of walk me off the ledge, and really give me some firm but loving wisdom and encouragement at times too. And it's just, for you to be as young as you are and have that awareness already is really, really, it fills my heart, because it's good to know that, like, I think the new generations are learning from the mistakes mine seem to make very prominently. But for everyone listening, regardless of what stage of life you're in right now, like I beat this drum all the time. Like, men are so isolated today, and it's the number one reason most of us are struggling, is because you don't actually have any real brotherhood. I hate the word community. That's like some corporate word. I mean brotherhood, like where we're talking like this about real issues consistently. You still do the fluffy stuff of, how was your weekend and what's the weather like? But they're also the guy that you're talking about, like, hey, dude, are you done looking at porn? You said you were going to quit. How's that going? It's like the hard conversations too, where you're not afraid of, the cliche things that most people are too afraid to talk about. If you don't have that in your life, you're not going to be successful really at anything, because no one is that good that they can just figure out everything on their own, and now, as I've realized this a little too late in the game, but I look up to all the guys that I want to be like, they all have the exact same thing for themselves. And I'm not in their inner circle. I'm their protege, right? I'm not a peer to them, and they help me out, and it's super helpful, and I love it. But I also understand that they have guys that fill their cup too. It's not this one-way thing. It's multi-directional. So it's a really great point, man. I'll let you follow up to that. I kind of rambled a little.
no, absolutely. I think it's vital to have men in your life. I put it this way. We had a guest speaker come in to talk to our football team, and he said, you need more brothers, less buddies. And everyone's like, what do you mean by that? And he's like,
Yeah.
your brothers, you grow with your brothers. Your brothers hold each other accountable. You talk life, you talk about how you're going to get to your desires, and you're going to just cultivate that community together and grow and talk about things that are required to grow.
Yeah.
Your buddies, that's who you go have a drink with and go watch a football
Right.
game at the bar with. That's who you play video games for 3 hours while your wife's on her phone waiting for you to come love her. Those are your buddies. You need less buddies, more brothers. And until you make that change, you're not going to have that next step in a lot of other areas. So, and the one
Yeah.
thing I was going to add before we run out of time, you mentioned I'm young and I know all this, I have this wisdom. That does not take away from the fact that the enemy's still trying to take down every single person that can know
Oh,
every
definitely.
single fact in the book. So I just want to encourage other men to really analyze, and the word I use a lot is become aware, because I think a lot of guys are just trying to get to tomorrow, going to go do the things I'm used to. If you become aware of what's going on, why you're doing what you're doing, why you're saying what you're saying, and what you want, it changes a lot of things, and you can kind of pivot your decisions throughout the day to line up for that. And I think becoming aware of where the enemy might attack you. So if George, if I said you're the devil, where would you attack your life right now that might destroy what you have going for you?
Mm.
You can think of a thing or two that's like, I might be sitting on the edge, thin ice of that area.
Yeah.
So being freshly married, being around great men on X, great men in life, starting the page, having success. I'm not thinking about the great stuff. I'm thinking about what the enemy's trying to do to me.
Mm.
And it's putting up the safeguards of being proactive about it. And I think that's a big thing, because once you get a glimpse of goodness, he's coming with a sledgehammer. So
That's right.
when you make the necessary changes that, if you're in George's men's group or you're hearing stuff on X or in life at your own church, like, that's great that you're making changes, but know that there's something coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be lying if I said that's not the case. So just be aware of where the enemy might attack you and put up the necessary safeguards to avoid that.
Right. And again, that's where Brotherhood's so important, right? Like a phalanx works because all the shields are shoulder to shoulder, right? And the spears are all pointing in the same direction. But when you're by yourself, you're open almost to most of, at least 270 degrees.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean that you need brothers to check you on where you're weak, and they'll be strong in those weak areas for you, and it's not a competition really. It's more of a just recognizing each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you help each other. And so like in my circle, right, my co-hosts on the podcast, there's 4 of us total. We're all very different men. We have massively different strengths and weaknesses, very different ways of viewing the world or how to handle different subjects. And it's amazing because we're kind of like sparring with each other, talking about all these different things, but we're all sharpening each other too. And, with some guy struggling with something, we're able to really pick him up and help him kind of overcome that challenge because we have all these differing perspectives on how to, solve it. And especially as men, I think we're just hardwired to need that. No one is that self-reliant. It's impossible. The best people I know don't do anything alone. They have like an army of people that are advising them and helping them with all these other tasks. So really love that point there about being aware of your weaknesses, because one of the best ways to fill those gaps for yourself is to welcome in brothers and be like, hey, this is something I struggle with. I need you to help me be accountable to it or whatever. And it loses a lot of power over you when you get comfortable with that courageous transparency, because they're gonna. It's a sense of honor to the other man, right? So I want to speak to this because I think a lot of men, and I want you to follow up on this one. A lot of men I hear never say anything because they feel that they'll be a burden to someone else. Oh, well, I don't want to, put my problems on them because they already have so much going on themselves. One, it's just not true. They love you. They want to help you. But 2, like, how dare you? You're robbing them of the chance to actually be in your corner, to give their giftings back to you. And it's incredibly rewarding to help another man in need, regardless of whatever his station in life is, and to be able to be the guy that he comes to for help, because it inherently means that he respects you to a very high degree. And that makes you feel awesome. Like as a man, for another man to be like, dude, I've got this problem. Can you help me? No one feels bad about that exchange because it means, dude, okay, he must really trust me. I must be a pretty good dude, And that's one of the positive things of where when we have some humility and some courageous transparency, a lot of goodness comes out of it. So I'd love for you to respond to that point too.
Hit the nail on the head. I think honor is the right way to put it.
Yeah.
It's honor that comes with a great responsibility, but one that's worth fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in those moments when men reach out to other men, people go through stuff in life, and the sole purpose that they go through stuff is to help other people.
That's right.
That eventually will go through the same thing. So to not reach out to someone that's dealt with issues across the board, because as I said, every man is lying if they said they haven't dealt with one of these things in some way, shape, or form. They're lying to
Yeah.
your face. It happens, and I appreciate you talking about the uncomfortable things that may not be fun to discuss, but it's going to heal. And
Hmm.
a lot of times, there's people that go through hard times and adversity, and their story is supposed to help others with their story. But if you don't ask, then you're robbing them in that blessing. And
Yeah.
you're obviously robbing yourself of the blessing of seeking freedom and wisdom and accountability, but you're robbing them too. So I agree with that completely.
Yeah. And so, guys, to all the men listening, like, you have to reach out. Stop lying to yourself and convincing yourself that no one actually wants to help you. You probably have at least one person in your life that you could think of right now who would actually pick up the phone when you call, and they would actually listen to you and they want to do it, but you've convinced yourself that you'd be a burden. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. And if you keep believing that, that's going to lead you down the dark path that leads to things like serious depression and suicide. And I think that this is why it's such a big problem for men. I mean, the stats are absolutely alarming. It's, I think, 3 to 4 times more likely that men commit suicide than women. And we're also very successful at it when we do it, when we attempt it. So, yeah, that's a massive issue. And I think Brotherhood is the antidote. And if you're not reaching out, you're really setting yourself up for failure. Even if you're a really capable person, right? That was kind of my story. Well, I'm a capable guy. I've got all my stuff together, right? George can get it done. He gets results. And I burnt myself out, and I crashed and burned hard, like real hard. If I would have had some real brotherhood around me, some real guys kind of poking me the way they do today and kind of challenging me to be better, I don't think I would have had the struggles I had. So please learn from my bad example and do better. But Brendan, where can people follow you? What's next for you? I'd love to kind of just future cast what it is you're doing and where we can kind of support your journey.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, the way George and I met on X, I have the handle @_the_good_man. That was the only one that was available for the
It's a
message.
lot of underscores.
Be a good man. I know he's going to throw it up here on the screen for everyone, but as far as this space, that's my main focus right now. I just saw a couple months ago, long story short, I was just sitting in my living room, and I tell it this way, I don't struggle much with anxiety or depression. I've just been blessed to been able to not deal with that. But I was anxious as heck that morning, and I was asking the Holy Spirit, what's going on? You're trying to tell me something. And in my mind was revealed this entire vision to start this page, the mission behind it, and what it was going to look like down the road. So I went 10 toes down, made the page that morning, and within 2.5 months, I mean, we're probably a week or two away from 2,000 followers, met a lot of great people. And the message is just be a good man, not a nice guy. I think a lot of men are complacent, lazy, and just controlled right now. They don't have control of their life. And I think the main message is just to help them and empower them and equip them to be better and to reach their God-given potential in their faith, their finance, their family, and their fitness. I think those 4 pillars make up what matters in life, and everything outside of that's a major distraction. So
That's right.
The biggest thing, as he mentioned, just building a community and being an encouragement to push men to be who they really can be. And I don't have it all figured out. I'm 24, but I know a lot of guys that know more than I do, and they'll help too. So we're heading in the right direction, but just been an awesome journey so far.
Yeah, and to that point of bridging the gap, right? Here's another thing. I've learned incredible things from younger people. Like, your age does not equate wisdom, it does not equate skill. And even if we were the same age and you had just as much experience as me, you have different strengths than I do. I have different strengths than you do. Naturally, there's somewhere where I can learn something from you and you can learn something from me. So, don't discount yourself because of your age. Obviously, you're doing a great thing, inspiring others, and you're going to continue to learn, but people will learn from you as well. So I love to see that, man. Really love the conviction to make it happen. I wanted you to define real quick, though, before we close.
Oh boy.
In your mind, what is the difference between a good man and a nice guy?
All right, I got this one. I thought it was like a question that you ask everyone at the end of a podcast.
What is the square root of... No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. You want to define happiness, so here we go.
Yeah.
So A good man versus a nice guy. I would say a good man is someone that strives to be respected, not liked. They stand firm on the truth that the Lord has laid out, and they defend that and they lead in that. And they do it boldly and intentionally. So, not to go in a rabbit hole, when you start talking about...
Go down the hole.
When you start talking about, oh, there's 88 genders, there's, a man can beat your daughter in volleyball and then go share the locker room post game. Or simply it's okay to be fat. It's okay to not work out. It's okay to not lead your family. Like, those are the basic ones. You stand for the truth and you show through your actions, not just talk, actions speak louder than words, what the truth looks like and the fruit that it'll produce when you do the right things. So I think men need to strive to not be liked, but to be respected. And that's the definition of being a good man, not a nice guy.
I love that. I say all the time, I kind of pick this up in the military, is it's leadership, not likership.
Yes.
Oftentimes you will have to do something that people do not like, but it's absolutely what's best for everyone. And you can take that and apply that to literally every situation where there's leadership, and that applies to in the home as well. So, Brendan, man, I appreciate you taking the time, and I love hearing from you and your perspectives. Of course, going to continue to watch your journey on X, and we're going to keep winning together. I love it, man. And if you're not already following him, go do it right now. He puts out incredible content, and I think you've got some bright years ahead of you, my friend. It's going to be exciting to watch your journey, and whatever small part we can play in that, it'll feel good to just help you rise. So thank you so much. Any final thoughts before we close?
No, just I thank you for the opportunity to talk about all this. We talk about bridging the gap. That's what you're doing right now. And I applaud you for reaching out and to reaching out to men of all ages and all situations, because you can sit there and talk on the sideline, but if you're not doing something about it, you can't complain. You're doing something about it. You're being intentional. George, you're a good man. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's all go be good men.
Amen.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. If you're on YouTube, drop a subscription to us, and if you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review. It helps greatly. If you are also ready to level up as a man, check out Elite Sentinel Coaching, our program designed specifically for men, where we forge men into leaders. We turn cowards into kings, weaklings into warriors. Become the hero in your story. Join us today.